Lately, I've been getting so many questions about my pronunciation, and a lot of you guys are asking specifically about what I did to acquire an American accent. And I realized that I have talked about various aspects of this in a number of my previous videos, but I've never made a dedicated, comprehensive video specifically on this topic until now. So what I've been doing is no secret, but let me sum it all up for you in one concise video. Before I start, I want to point out something important for all of you to keep in mind. The things that I did are not necessarily the things that you need to do, nor are they things that will unquestionably work for you. This is merely what I did personally, and those things changed throughout my journey, and I learned as I went what worked better for me. So my intention with this video is to give you some ideas of how you might want to approach this process. But my way is not the only possible way, it's just what happened to work well for me. So it's important to try different ideas and methods and figure out what works best for you. Also, I want to clear up one common point of misunderstanding. Contrary to popular belief, I had never lived in an English-speaking country until coming to the United States 2 months ago. Nor did I magically start out with a very good pronunciation from the get-go. And when I first started studying English seriously, my pronunciation was really quite bad. You can watch my first video on this channel and just compare my present pronunciation with my pronunciation back then. And I can guarantee that when I first started studying seriously, my pronunciation was even worse than in that video. One thing that definitely played a very important role in this process was that I was very passionate about pronunciation. In fact, I've been in love with the American accent since I was very young. I really loved the very process of working on my pronunciation, and I've always found it very gratifying to see concrete improvements in my proficiency. For example, I would always listen very closely to how people spoke in American movies and TV shows. And now that I think about it, I recall that I would even try to shadow them when no one could see me, of course. Now, I'm not saying that the process somehow was easier for me because if I was so passionate about it, because believe me, it wasn't. That level of passion certainly helped me to stay focused and highly motivated to do the work, but it did not otherwise reduce the total amount of work I needed to do. Anyways, to go back to your questions about my process, my first 2 steps were simply to listen to lots and lots of American movies and TV shows and videos on YouTube, and then to start trying to imitate some of what I was hearing. I started working hard on my listening skills, and I was paying a very close attention to the way people articulated words and to every single visible mouth movement. The other important thing in this early stage was that I knew exactly what I wanted to achieve, which was native-like pronunciation. And taking into consideration my previous experience with learning languages, which was typical for someone from a Slavic country, I knew what I needed to change in my approach. In particular, I knew that if I wanted to be able to speak English with a good accent and clear pronunciation, then I had to become a lot more efficient and consistent in my methods. And for me, consistency meant developing the discipline to practice every single day. So again, I started with listening and then proceeded to shadowing. For those of you who are not familiar with this practice technique, speech shadowing is when you repeat words, phrases, sentences, even whole paragraphs exactly the way native speakers say them, with the same speed, intonation, stress patterns, etc. Also, I would always start slowly, and I mean really slowly, and then gradually increase my speed until I could match the original. I didn't use any audio recording apps or anything of that sort, but honestly, I wish I had, because I think it's a great idea, and a lot of people tell me that they find it very helpful. First, it is very useful to slow down the speech in order to hear all the little details as clearly as possible. And second, it is also very useful to record yourself in order to compare your speech to the original in an objective manner. This is also something that you can do entirely in private with no worries about sounding bad in front of your teacher, classmates, or anyone else. My own first couple of experiences with recording myself came when I was taking part in one of the first speaking challenges from Hadar Shemesh from Accents Way English, and then when I was taking her course. And then, of course, I had the brilliant idea of starting a YouTube channel in English where anyone in the world could see every last detail of my English pronunciation. Errors and all. That's hardly the easiest way to get a sense of how you really sound, but knowing that the whole world might be watching and laughing can certainly give you a lot of motivation to be as correct as possible. So if you can stand that much attention, I can say that it might well do great things for your motivation. Unfortunately, when I just started out, I knew nothing about pronunciation. I didn't really know how I sounded or whether I was speaking correctly or not, or if I was making any real progress at all. So I started searching for information about pronunciation and affordable courses on YouTube. Basically, I was in much the same circumstances as any other independent student studying English as a foreign language. I lived in Ukraine, in a non-English speaking country. I didn't have enough money to pay for courses or coaches. I was very self-conscious, and I had just had a baby. I was a new mother for the first time on top of everything else. So I was all over YouTube searching for some useful ideas and information about pronunciation. And by the way, I wasn't just working on my pronunciation, but also on all other aspects of my English as well. On YouTube, I found tons of useful and practical information, and in particular, I fell in love with Rachel from Rachel's English, whose videos I used to work on my pronunciation. I did everything the way she taught, but unfortunately, I didn't start from the basics, the individual sounds, because I was so focused on pronouncing whole words right away. And I say unfortunately for reasons you'll understand in a moment. But we all need to start somewhere, right? We live and learn. Through YouTube recommendations, I then found Hadar Shemesh from Accents Way English with Hadar Shemesh. And I was shocked when I found out that she wasn't a native speaker. I loved her videos so much, I was basically clinging to them like a life preserver. Then I joined one of her first speaking challenges, and then I decided to splurge on her course. The course was very effective for me, and that's exactly when I realized that I need to go back to the beginning and do everything properly, starting from the basics. That is, although the course was very effective, for me personally, it wasn't enough. I knew that I still hadn't achieved the desired level, so I continued working on my own, starting from the basics and using all the relevant online material that I could find. I started by working on every single sound separately, and then on my intonation, stress patterns, connected speech, sound linking, and so on. Another thing that I found especially helpful was the system of mouth and tongue exercises that Hadar teaches as a warm-up for making your mouth and face muscles more flexible and comfortable when articulating new sounds properly. I was very meticulous, and I dedicated a huge amount of time to this stage of the process. And I also created a routine for myself that I followed religiously. I knew that if I wanted to achieve the desired results, I needed to continue to work on my pronunciation on my own as much as possible, and that it just had to become a part of my life. So the biggest part of my learning process was just me working on my own every single day for as many hours as I could manage. On average, this meant at least 5 hours a day, and yes, this meant saying no to some social activities, but I was totally fine with that because I just had that much passion for the project. In fact, one could easily say that I was more than a little obsessive, but it's just my little personality quirk. However, before you have a heart attack at the idea that you have to spend 5 hours a day practicing so obsessively, let me reassure you that you can still make excellent progress with your English by investing much less time than I did. The reason for that is what English speakers call the principle of diminishing returns. As language students, we make a lot of useful progress at first because every new word is usually used very frequently. But the more words we learn, the less progress we make per word because those later words are used much less frequently. Before I go any further, I want to say a huge thanks to the sponsor of a portion of today's video, Elsa Speak. I didn't use any apps when I was working on my pronunciation, but I honestly wish that I had known about Elsa Speak when I was still in the most intensive phase of working on my pronunciation. A lot of you guys already use this app, and I gather that you really enjoy it because I constantly get comments about it, and it really is a unique product. This is the first of its kind app that pinpoints your pronunciation mistakes using cutting-edge artificial intelligence technology. The app has 40 plus real-life topics and 1,600 plus lessons that range from business topics like everyday office conversations, job interviews, business travel, sales meetings, to casual, everyday topics like movies, food and drink, education, and entertainment. It also has an amazing dictionary that shows you how to pronounce any words or phrases, and community feature that allows you to add your friends and colleagues and compete with a leaderboard, as well as ask for help by posting a word you're struggling with and having friends help you correct it. And it'll help you improve your pronunciation, of course, but also your intonation and fluency. You can go ahead and download it right now for free and get 7 days of pro membership for free. The link is in the description. Now, let's proceed to the practicing part. And you know what? I want to find the word that I find to be very difficult for me till this day. Yes. So let's click dictionary. Let's type it in here. So the word is a littler. Okay, let's try it. Let's listen to it first.
Littler.
That's fast. Littler. So, as you can see, you can find any word you want in the app and work on it. If you've mispronounced a word, you can click on it and see which sounds were incorrect. You can practice them individually. And then you can practice saying this word again.
Littler.
Littler. And the best thing is that you can learn anywhere, anytime, and with a very high accuracy rate. Now, I also have an exclusive discount for you guys to get 85% of the Elsa lifetime membership and 40% off of a 1-year membership. All you need to do is just click the link down below in the description. Anyway, to continue the story, it seems like I watched thousands of videos on pronunciation. In particular, I watched every single Rachel's English video on making sounds and linking, and I practiced everything very diligently. I even joined her online academy for 2 months, which was very useful as well. By the way, she uses slow down audio recordings a lot so that students are able to hear the way every single sound is pronounced when native speakers are talking. This is extremely useful and I highly recommend this technique. Personally, I love tongue twisters and I think that they are very effective. So I worked on a lot of them until I could say them as smoothly as possible. I also made lists of words, word combination, and even sentences that were hard for me to pronounce. And I practiced them until they were no longer difficult. Among others are words like particularly, literally, and another good one, littler, which I found especially difficult. The flap T LR combination was really challenging for me and sometimes still is. Of course, I also continued with shadowing. That is still a constant part of my routine. Then I started working with an accent coach that I was very fortunate to meet through YouTube. I have a video interview with him on the channel. This is when I made a huge leap in my progress because when you work with a coach individually, they can catch the mistakes you keep making without even noticing, and they can help you work on them by explaining what exactly you're doing wrong and how to fix it. Basically, you can work on the tiniest nitty-gritty details with them if that's what you want. But in any case, you can decide how much of a perfectionist you really want to be. And of course, how much of a personal coaching you want to pay for. In my case, the training was really intensive, and that was exactly what I wanted and needed. But as I say, each person can decide how much intensity they really want. After a year and a half or 2 years, I have noticed that I have decreased the intensity and the amount of practice that I do because I no longer need that much volume of intensity. However, I should say decreased, but not stopped altogether. I still practice till this day, but that's just me. And by the way, that decrease happened naturally by itself. It wasn't as though I suddenly said, I can't do this anymore, I'm too tired. No. I was not going to make excuses and I was not going to justify quitting. I'm certainly not saying that I sound like a native speaker or even that my pronunciation is all that close to native. That's because I can often hear the difference and it's quite obvious that I still have a lot to work on. But that's okay. Because I don't have to sound like a native speaker, neither do you. We just have to enjoy ourselves when we're speaking English and allow ourselves to speak the language in the way that feels comfortable and natural to us. And speaking of comfort, we all experience muscle aches and stuttering and that annoying refusal of the mouth to move the way it needs to move in order to produce the proper sounds. This happens when we get tired, and I experienced all of this along the way as well. My advice is that when you feel this way, just take a break and continue the next day or even later than that. It passes over time, and while you are recovering, it seems that somehow your muscles learn the new patterns of making sounds and it becomes easier. But you really do need to take breaks. It's almost the same as with working out. You need to take breaks to let your muscles recover, and in a similar fashion, you also kind of build your facial muscle memory, or at least so it seems in my experience. I might be forgetting something, but these are the things that I think made the biggest difference in my pronunciation. So I hope I've answered your questions adequately on this point. In the future, I'm planning on making more videos that are going to be focused specifically on different aspects of pronunciation. You guys have already asked me a lot of detailed questions about pronunciation, but if you have any others, please feel free to put them in the comments and we'll see what we can do with them. And that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Now, don't forget to click the link in the description and in the pinned comment and get your exclusive discount on the Elsa Speak app today and start practicing your pronunciation today. Don't waste your time. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye. And also, if you're being distracted while you're working, you're gonna mess up. Do you know what I just realized? I did not connect my mic to the camera. Almost all of my lights died while I was filming. I had to stop and charge them. And then I was distracted and I forgot to connect my mic to the camera, and then I had to refilm almost everything once again. But anyways, the work is done. It might not be perfect, but it is what it is right now.